I would like to start off giving a little background about myself. I started off in fine art and did not necessarily start with photography, which a lot of people find to be very different, because usually it is the other way around. My father retired from the Air Force a year after I entered college, and so I used to move around a lot. Therefore, the only constants in my life have been my family and nature. Throughout my education before graduate school, I drew and painted. The only reason I would use photography at the time was for a means for my other mediums. It wasn't until I had to take digital photography class that I saw photography as my art form. The reason I latched on to photography was because I was beginning to see how much more practical and less expensive it was for me. Not only this, but I learned about Photoshop and how I could create fine art photography by layering photographs to make montages. One of the assignments that struck me was the paper project. We had to use paper in a new way and then photograph it. The images that came out were amazing. One being shown here on the right, it allowed me to use mixed media without going overboard with editing in Photoshop. The image on the left is a painting I did when I was in college. It shows how involved I am with mixing paint to match a photograph. Now this brings me to my abstract. The title of my series is The Beauty of Organic Color. There are many different fields of work, but what makes someone want to be an artist? There are many possible answers, but one word stands out: creation. The field of art is unique. We have the power to create. The Beauty of Organic Color series is a personal discovery utilizing organic material, makeup, and photography. It blends the lines between nature and art, utilizing organic color to represent creation, a painstaking process that only one can imagine what it could be like to create the world. The Beauty of Organic Color is shot with a Canon Digital T3i and two Interfit Exec 150-watt flash headlights. Settings are at 45mm focal length, 100 ISO, f-stop of 5.6, and 1/25 of a second per minute shutter speed, and set up in the bird's eye view. Images are to be printed at Plyworks Lab at 8 inches by 12 inches onto satin photo rag, then bamboo mounted and hung in color order in a gallery. What is organic? What is color? These two questions are what the Beauty of Organic Color is all about. This series, which resides in the fine art depictive self-portraiture genre, is a personal journey to understanding color theory through organic materials. So what is organic, you ask? Well, according to the American Heritage Dictionary, it means anything involving organisms or the products of their life processes, which means a celebration of life and death. So what does it mean to portray the colors of these life processes? According to Collins English Dictionary, color means the quality of an object or substance with respect to light reflected by the object, usually determined visually by measurement of hue, saturation, and brightness of the reflected light, saturation or chroma hue. With these two definitions in mind, the Beauty of Organic Color is a way of showing the balance between art and nature. Breaking down the color definition is a lot trickier to explain than organic, because you can hold an organic object and know its origin, but it is harder to understand the origin of color. Right now, speaking of holding an object that has color, we are talking about color in terms of light. There is no fixing of a representation of an object by printing yet, but once color goes from light to being fixed to represent an object, we are talking in terms of pigment or ink, which have to be mixed together to depict light wave lengths. According to DOMA, from the Institute for Dynamic Educational Development, the color that our eyes see comes from a wavelength bouncing off a surface because it wasn't absorbed by an object. Therefore, by mathematical calculations, pigments can be laid down onto a medium/surface to match the wavelength that was not absorbed by the object. These calculations then can be referenced by using a flow chart or a color wheel, which display how to come up with different colors as well as how to place them into categories, which I'm utilizing for this series. There are 13 categories throughout with this series. Of course, there are many more categories as well, but for the sake of not overwhelming myself, I chose to limit it to these select major categories. Since the other categories that I did not choose fall also into these categories and would just start repeating colors, that is why I chose these ones. These categories are primary, secondary, tertiary, analogous, complementary, split complementary, triad, warm, cool, tints, shades, tones, and neutrals. Here is my color flow chart. This here shows how it's broken down into categories. Neutral colors are on the left-hand side with white, gray, and black. Primary are starting point for every other colors. They are red, yellow, and blue. Secondary is created by mixing two primary colors together. They are orange, green, and purple. Tertiary colors are created by mixing one primary color with one secondary color, and these are brown and maroon. A tint is created by adding white to any primary, secondary, or tertiary color. They are pink, light blue, cream. Tone is created by adding black and white, gray to any primary, secondary, or tertiary color. This one is tan straw. Shade, created by adding black to any primary, secondary, or tertiary color. Dark red kidney bean. My influences are Takeya Hanayushi, Philip Blockers, Kaylee Johnson. Takeya Hanayushi, he brings nature closer to the people's consciousness, reminding them about the mesmerizing colors and patterns found in raw organic element. From Trend Hunter Eco website, it states that he creates artistic headpieces that make use of organic products such as fruit, vegetables, leaves, flowers, and anything organic from nature. Philip Blockers is a British artist photographer who is noted for his striking images of subjects wearing headpieces constructed from unusual materials such as apples. These headpieces are one of Philip's signature themes. Kaylee Johnson is a designer who owns Miss G Designs in LA, California. She designs beautiful, one-of-a-kind headpieces that accent women's features through the use of color, and she uses items obtained only from nature. She only makes use of organic products in all of her headpieces. She states that we are all so different. We are so complex, so rich with color and depth. My headpieces are a bit like that. My main influence on my work is Chilean fashion photographer Simon Diaz-Thomas. He is a self-taught photographer. He has done a few images making use of unusual items to frame the face, so the eyes capture your attention. He also makes use of makeup in the same color scheme as the headpiece, like I am doing. He is focused on color and facial beauty in the images I show you here. This is where I'm going with my project. He states impossible things can happen. That's who I am. That's what I do for a living, making real the things I dream and see inside my eyes. To conclude, this series is attempting to wrap color theory and nature together to explain that without nature, we wouldn't have color. By capturing depictive photographs of myself alongside these organic materials, it shows the idea of creation. We wouldn't have color without nature, and color wouldn't exist if it wasn't for a creator of the nature. Therefore, it shows the personal process of the creation and the created. This series is meant to be seen by art and environmental enthusiasts. It is meant to be seen together hanging on a gallery wall based off of my own color flow chart.